Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. I am your host, Onyedika Anyako, and with me here I have Leye Makanjuola, the CEO of Intense Group, as well as James Praise, the founder of Marketing in Action. And today we have for you building a robust customer acquisition engine for your B2C digital business. And we will be sharing a lot of insights, a lot of information, things to help you with your business. So please stay tuned and listen. I'll be giving you a brief overview of our guests. So we have, like I said earlier, Leye Makanjuola, the CEO of Intense Group, and also James Praise, the founder of Marketing in Action. So a little synopsis on Leye. He is a marketing and technology professional and a business savvy leader. He studied media and communication at Pan Atlantic University, Lagos, and has earned marketing and digital transformation certifications from the University of Pennsylvania, Wharton, University of Virginia, and Boston Consulting Group. He holds an MBA at the Side Business School, Oxford, UK. Leye has a wide array of skills, which includes sales negotiation, business analysis and development, project planning, and research. And he has led consulting projects for brands like Daily Trust and the Leadway Group. So he's also a side foundational scholar. And he's also the CEO of Intense Group, which comprises Palette, Purple Stardust, the creative marketing agency, Intense Digital, which is a performance marketing agency as well. So Leia, please say hi to us. Let's just hear a little. Yeah, okay, sorry for the technicality. Yeah, please, Leia, we can hear you now.
Thanks, Deka. Thanks for the introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Leye, and I'll be taking you through customer acquisition today, and happy to be here.
Okay, great. And also we have with us James Praise. James, please say hi.
Hi everyone, happy to be here today as well. I'll also be contributing to today's theme on how to build a customer acquisition engine for your B2C digital business. Look forward to it.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so without further ado, let's get straight into it. We'll have Leia first. He'll be giving us a bit of, the whole thing, and we'll be having him first for the first 20 minutes. Then we'll have James, and then we'll have our panel discussion and Q&A, and a little bit of a conclusion. So before we go into that, let me just give you a brief information on who we are. We are Intense Digital, and we are a performance and data-driven digital transformation and growth marketing agency focused on growth and ROI for the clients. We connect media investment to business results using an agile and iterative methodology. So we have been in operation for a while now. We have worked with some of the biggest brands in Nigeria and outside Nigeria, and we are glad to have this opportunity to discuss further strategies with you on how you can make your acquisition strategies work this year and in the future. So we will have Leye come up to the stage now, and he'll be giving us his um, his presentation. And let's have you, Leye.
Thanks, Deka. Can you see my screen?
Yes, please.
All right. Thanks a lot. So yeah, I'll be taking us through um, building a robust customer acquisition engine for your B2C digital business. And while I'm taking us through this, please do not hesitate to drop your questions in the chat, and I'll be able to take them after my session. Okay, so um, let me do this. So when it comes to customer acquisition, of course, every business, especially B2C businesses, need to continuously acquire customers. A B2C business is basically business to consumer or business to customer, while you know that B2B is business to business. For business to business, you can basically depend on interpersonal relationships, networking, and more direct sales to acquire customers. But for B2C, you definitely need, a growth engine. You need a lot of outreach, right? So in a world where there's a lot of competition, and customers have a lot of options, it's important that you have a good mix of tactics, to acquire your end users or to acquire your customers. And that's what I'll be taking us through today. Understanding the journey of your customers from the first points of contact, to when they actually purchase and to when they become loyal ambassadors, meaning, they actually refer people to you and they tell people about you. Um, it's very important to understand how that works and how you can become an organization that acquires, retains, and turns your customers into loyal ambassadors. Right. So, the balancing acts. How do we balance acquisition versus retention? A lot of people focus more on acquire, but there's really no point acquiring if you can't keep your customers. It's very expensive to acquire new customers. It's actually more profitable in the long run to retain customers than to keep acquiring new customers. It says, according to the recent studies by the Aberdeen Group, acquiring a new customer can be 5 times more expensive than retaining an existing one, which shows clearly retaining your customers is way more important. However, on this session, we'll be talking about mostly about acquisition, and hopefully, depending on feedback in subsequent webinars, we might talk about retention a little bit more. So, just take note that this session is quite introductory. We're just getting started, trying to understand what people are looking to hear, what people are looking to learn. So we're going to start from here. So it highlights the importance of not only bringing in new customers, but also keeping them engaged and satisfied over the long term. We, as an organization at Intense, have understood this over the years. Being in business for almost 10 years now, we've learned that keeping our customers is way more profitable than always trying to bring in a new customer and then they leave. So, how do you create a seamless customer journey, which obviously does not end at purchase? If you've been listening, it's important to, first of all, get them to know your brand. How do you get people to know your brand? There's so much involved in that because there's a million and one brands, saying almost the same thing as you're saying online. Every day I get on Instagram, it's just a scrolling game. I'm just scrolling through until I see what interests me. And if I see your brand's, content, or I see your brand's ad, why should I stop to watch it? It means it must catch my attention. It must be interesting. It must be relevant. It must be informative. So hence, you need to basically take into consideration each step and how to connect with your potential customers, or what we call your buyer persona. A smooth journey from brand awareness to post purchase not only improves customer experience but also builds long-term relationships and encourages repeat business. The key to a seamless journey lies in understanding the various stages your customers go through and ensuring that each touch point is intuitive, engaging, and value driven. So, how do you get people to engage with your brand, or how do you get them to notice your brand before they even think about trusting it, before they even think about purchasing, and then becoming loyal? The key is that you need to know your ideal customer. Um, if you don't know your customer, then you'll just be speaking to the gallery. It's important to know who they are in terms of gender. What is their social class? What is their purchasing power? What are their challenges? What are their pain points? Why would they need your product? Why would they need what you're offering? You also need to understand what the alternatives are. What do the competition offer? Do they offer the same thing as you? If yes, then why should they choose you? Is it your story? In Nigeria, people don't really care about story. They just care about functionality a lot when it comes to products. But in other parts of the world, they care about causes. Oh, they're doing this for the earth. They're doing this um, for making sure that the earth is green. They're doing this for sickle cell. So, I support that brand because they support sickle cell. But what's really important is to understand, what are the motivating factors that will make your buyer persona or your ideal customer buy. What are their pain points? A simple formula that I would usually use is to ask the question, what do you offer that your competition does not offer that your customers absolutely need? That is usually your unique selling point. Um, and then, by knowing your customer, then you're able to speak to them in their own language, tell them the problem that they've been having, and tell them how you solve it, you know, different from the competition, or you're the only one that solves this problem. Also, knowing your ideal customer lets you understand, where they reside on, the digital space. You can't be wanting to sell to people who are like 21 to 25, and then you're spending your time on Facebook. You probably want to be on TikTok. You probably want to be on Instagram. You need to look for the right influencers to um, basically get to them and allow them to trust your brand. So there's a myriad of um, factors that you can take into consideration when trying to build your ideal customer, which include their age, location, income, interest, values, online behavior, and so much more. And of course, I'm assuming that the people on this call are not entirely new to marketing, growth marketing, performance marketing, digital marketing, whatever name that you want to call it. We're all marketers, and our goals and objectives are quite similar. We're trying to reach people, but we're not only trying to reach people, we're trying to get them to notice us and take action. And these criteria are some of like the building blocks, in ensuring that we don't waste, our media budgets, because most people have some level of success, right? But at the end of the day, if you work for a company or you own your own company, what's very important is that you are cost efficient, that you break even and you basically get return on ad spend. Without that, it will just be an exercise in futility, and just spending money. You're just blowing the bag, right? If you're spending more than you're making, even when you look at the customer lifetime value and you're still spending more than you're making, then your product or your business will be out of the market in no time. So, taking into consideration all of these things and knowing who you're supposed to communicate to would help you reduce, the number of people that you are advertising to, that you're reaching out to, and that will help you narrow your market and increase your chances of actually finding the people that are right for you. These days, you know, s- when we talk to certain potential customers, if we find out that they're not the right fit for us, we just like, politely explain to them that, we're not right fits for each other, because what happens when you're talking to the wrong people is that they end up wasting your time. Even if they buy, they might eventually leave, and you will have spent a lot, of money and time trying to acquire that customer. So knowing your ideal customer is very important. Here are a few questions to ask to define your ideal audience. So just going deeper into building your ideal customer persona. Age, very important. It's usually an age range of 10 years, 10 to 15 years, depending on what you're selling. Obviously, there are products that have a wider age range. Gender is also important. There are some products that are gender based. So, for example, if you own the Flow app, is most likely for just women. The Flow app is, an app that women use to like check their menstrual cycle, And then let me try and think about a product that is just for men. I don't know. Women have everything. Location obviously is important. You can't be trying to sell or advertise your gym or some kind of fitness product in Abuja, and then you're targeting Kaduna. So understanding where your people are. Certain times you need to do geolocation based ads just to make sure that you're not targeting the wrong people and wasting money. Income level is important as well, but of course, how do you even define, or how do you understand how to target people based on their income? This is, one of the major issues that advertisers or marketers find difficult, when they're looking for people who can afford their product or their app. If your product is a paid product, how do you know that your customer can afford it? But it's very important to even define, what that person should earn, for them to be able to afford it. Um, just a side note. Okay, I'm checking the time. Um, yeah, so next is psychographics of your ideal customers. What are their interests? What are their hobbies? What are their values? So, for example, if I'm interested in fashion, it means that they're definitely like websites or podcasts or pages that I will visit, and that basically helps me in understanding the media platforms to put my message on, the influencers to help me, push my product, the places to be, if I was ever going to do any physical or experiential marketing. What are the habits and what are the preferred social media platforms? You know, certain times you find people promoting something on Nairaland and wonder why. Maybe the people that you're trying to reach are just very talkative, right? They like to be in a forum and just exchange ideas and just chat all day about something. Finally, you need to know their needs and pain points, which is probably one of the most important, because this is where you come in. If your ideal customer does not have any challenges, then why would they buy from you? Certain times people don't know that they have a problem that you solve, but you need to know that they have that problem, and you need to help them identify that they have that problem, and then introduce your product as a solution to that problem. You know, understanding goals, aspirations. Sometimes it's not seen as a problem, but it's more like, I want to do this, I want to achieve that, I want to be top three, most famous content creators in Nigeria. It's not necessarily a problem, it's an aspiration, but for you, that is a problem that you solve. And all of this information, all of this research, all of this insights, becomes your ammo when time comes, to basically start your customer acquisition campaign. So let's talk a little bit about the tactics. Um, A/B testing. Like I said, I'm assuming that the people on this call are, at least intermediate level skills when it comes to digital marketing or growth marketing. But A/B testing is very important because it's all about experimenting. Um, you might think that we know everyone, or professionals know what to do, exactly how to acquire new customers. But at the end of the day, it's all about testing, 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 and then measuring results, figuring out what works, figuring out what doesn't work, reducing or ending the things that don't work, and then capitalizing on the things that work. So it's basically, what they call in math, it's elimination. So you're just eliminating things that don't work and keeping the ones that work. So you can do A/B testing for literally anything. You can do A/B testing for. You can start from the ad material. So you can have two different ad materials, two different creatives, two different copy to the same audience, and see which one does better. And then you can make inferences based on the results, to then understand why the one that did better did better. Is it because of the color? Is it because of the font? Is it because of the copy? And then take notes, based on those insights, and then use it to scale. And then you can do this across the whole customer journey up until the landing page. You can A/B test landing pages. You can A/B test email headlines, email copy. It's basically just a way to find out what works and not assume that the one thing that you've done is the best. And this becomes basically a way of life. When you continue your marketing journey. Um, I believe that we'll be sharing this deck or a version of it. So obviously, you can read through it in your spare time. It says 95% optimizing your conversion rate. Conversion rate optimization is probably the most important aspect of customer acquisition. So which just means that, what is conversion? Conversion just means that you've been able to get someone on your side, right? But in marketing, it means that you've gotten someone to do what you wanted them to do. So it means that you set a goal, and for someone to take an action, or for your ideal customers to take an action, and if they convert, it means that they've taken that action. So a conversion is anything that you want it to be. It could be that somebody has registered for your waiting list for your product. It could mean that somebody has bought, one of your products on your e-commerce site, maybe a digital product. It could mean somebody has signed up for your newsletter. It could mean somebody has signed up for a lead. It could mean somebody has registered for your webinar. So, and then conversion rates, how to calculate that is basically, the number of people that have seen your ad versus the number of people that have actually performed the action. So if 100 people see your ad and then 100 people sign up or download your app, then you have 100% conversion rate, which is obviously very rare. So the idea of conversion rate optimization is that if you started off with 30% conversion rate, then you want to figure out, how do I get it to 40? How do I get it to 50? How do I get it to 60? And higher and higher. And of course, it happens on different platforms. It happens at the ad level, and it happens, on the website level as well, and it happens on the app level as well. Um, it just depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to acquire, you're really focused on optimizing your ads, optimizing your landing page. But if you're focused on growth, then you're focused on optimizing, your product environment, ensuring that the user journey is seamless, ensuring that your messages are connecting, ensuring that people are responding. Um, so, conversion rate optimization is a whole new world on its own, but it's probably one of the most ignored, aspects of acquisition and growth, because it seems like people just, press go on whatever they are doing, and they just leave it and leave it to fate. But it's important to basically, analyze your data from the results of your campaign, and refine the experience. How many people are visiting your page, how many people are dropping off, how long are they spending on the page, are there any aspects or areas of your landing page or of your product that are not working properly? Are there any broken buttons? Are there any is there any copy that is, not clear? You basically just need to do a diagnosis of, each campaign, or even like each day, and understand, what's working, and then try and fix things, and then check, what the difference is, and see how that has improved, your campaign. So that's basically the general idea about, conversion rate optimization. And it's something that it's a never ending thing, that you need to continue to do, in your marketing journey. Addressing pain points with content. Pain points are specific problems or challenges that your target audience faces. And I had mentioned before that this is probably one of the most important aspects in basically communicating your unique selling proposition. If you don't understand what my problem is, then how can you solve it? Even if you understand it, right, you still need to be able to communicate it in a way where, when I see it, I feel like, oh yes, that's the problem that I've been having, and I'm happy these guys, brought it up. Let me see, what the solution is. But if you don't say it in my language, if you don't say it the way I think about it, then I might just see it and it might just fly over my head. I might not know that you're talking to me. I don't know that you're addressing my problem. And a lot of campaigns, a lot of products actually make this mistake where they don't do a thorough enough research about, their ideal audience. They don't speak to them. They don't do any focus groups. They don't do any research. They don't do any questionnaires, and they just assume that, yes, I have this problem, so other people must have it, and this is how we're going to communicate it. And then they end up, having campaigns that make no impact. You have a lot of impressions, a lot of reach, sometimes a lot of clicks from the wrong people, but very little conversions. So to effectively address pain points, you need to start by identifying the most common challenges your customers face. And this involves, doing surveys, having focus groups, having one-on-one interviews. You want to have a critical mass of, insights. For most products, YC would say try and have 100 people, respond, have interviews or questionnaires with 100 people, and that would form your insights. And of course, there's an art to asking these questions. to understanding these pain points. But if you have, a critical mass of your ideal audience sharing their pain points with you, the most common challenge would usually be the main problem that your product would solve. And once you have a clear understanding of these pain points, then you can now tailor your messaging to show that your product or service, solve these problems or alleviates these issues. Multi-channel approach. Now, let me just quick caveat, right? It's not essential that you um, use several channels, right? If your audience is only on one channel, then so be it. Use just that channel. But in 2024, the likelihood of your ideal audience being on just one digital channel is very low. At least each person uses maybe email, social, SMS, search, probably visit some websites so you see some display ads, probably has your app on their phone, so you want to figure out how best can I reach these people, and how can I stay top of mind? How can I continue one interaction that started on email, and how can I continue that in the application, or how can I carry a conversation or an interaction that started on Instagram? How can I take that to WhatsApp? That way, um, your communication is connected. That way, the consumer feels seen. They have just a more seamless experience. As long as the experience is seamless, when okay, we are, hold on, okay. Dika, don't hesitate to let me know how many minutes I have left. Um, yeah, so just to emphasize that the multi-channel approach is very important um, in ensuring that your customers or your audience have a seamless experience where, if I sign up for your product, I get an email welcoming me, and from there on, you have my details. So the next time I come to your website or I log into the app, it's me. You know the actions that I've taken. What I've bought. You can basically remind me, of when my subscription will expire. And, if I don't check my email, I can get an in-app notification. If I don't get it on the app, if I don't respond, that if I get an SMS, I might see it. So, there's obviously, many ways to skin a cat, and adopting a multi-channel approach is a more surefire way to acquire customers and retain them than focusing on just one channel, because we're just basically wired to use more than one platform in 2024 and beyond. So now we're talking about the potential platforms or tactics that you would use to reach your customers, which include content marketing. Social media marketing is actually a part of content marketing. But content marketing is basically, using helpful content, solution-based content, informative, entertaining content to educate people, to inform people, to solve problems, and then drive them to any of your platforms, where they can usually get, something helpful like an ebook, a white paper, watch a video, watch a webinar in exchange for their information. Now, usually, when a customer or a potential customer goes, all the way to register for some content that you're providing, or to download something that you're providing, it's a signal that they are a potential customer, and that person then basically goes into your audience of potential customers, from where you begin to nurture them, and begin to initiate contact with them to find out if they are indeed the ideal customer for you, and you begin to push them down the funnel. And social media marketing is basically a large part of that, because content marketing happens across all the platforms. So you're pushing content on social, you're pushing content on search, you're pushing video content, you're pushing content on email, you're pushing content on webinars like this. But social is a big part of that, and that's where we spend most of our time. I probably spend more than 3-4 hours on social every day. So if there's any way that anywhere that you could catch me, it'll probably be on Instagram, or on Snap, or on LinkedIn. So hence, why social is a big part, should be a big part of your multi-channel strategy. But it's also very important to understand what social media your target audience use. Search, is very important, but people are beginning to use AI more these days. I like to see the numbers um, at the moment, but search is very important, especially when you're looking for something and you don't have the answers. I'm looking for, where to find developers that are good at generative AI. So I go to search. Is there any outsourcing company that can provide me that? So for you, as the product owner, you need to figure out, how can I put myself, in front of the people that are looking for me? And how do I do that? I need to create content. I need to put my content on my website, and then I need to put it on all our high domain authority websites, that will allow people find me. I need to do backlinks. I need to guest posts. I need to ensure that these platforms that publish about us are linking back to us. I mean, as you can see, all of this is a very laborious, intricate, process. You need to do each and every one of these things. It's not a one-man job, and that's why you have agencies like us, to assist you with some of this work. Um, and of course, you know, copywriting is not a channel, but it's an integral part of getting your message across. And if you're not, clear, if you're not lucid in your communication, like I said, it will fly over most people's heads. And you need to ensure that you understand the people that you're speaking to, you understand their problems, you understand their emotions and what moves them, and you put this into writing, or you put this into a voiceover, or you put this into a video commercial, and you put it out, and then you pray and hope that your target audience sees it and clicks on your CTA. Talking about acquisition using campaigns, I think I'm going to skip this for now, because we're largely running out of time. But we have I believe we have your contact details. Um, but because we're using LinkedIn, I'll advise you drop your emails into chat, so that we have like your emails that you use on a day-to-day basis, and that we can reach out to you the next time we're about to have a webinar, and then we can take it from here. So I hope that you've been able to get one or two tips about customer acquisition, even if we were speaking just from a very high level. Hopefully, you also dropped your questions that basically, let us know what you want to learn. If there are any particular things about this session that you want to know more about, and then we'll take it from there, in the Q&As, and also use that um, in developing our next webinar content. So thank you very much for listening, and over to you, Tika.
Okay, thank you very much, Leye. That was very insightful. So we will have James come on now. Please, it's not information overload. We are learning. So yeah, please, James, let's have you. Hello, James.
Okay,
Yes.
yes, I mean, thank you very much, Dika. I think Leia has given a very, in-depth talk on some of the things that I might touch on a bit in my own presentation. Just a bit of context. So I have done a bit of stuff around products, digital products. So like the overarching theme on my slides are going to be really more focused to like how you can leverage, customer acquisition engines for, digital products, if you run a startup or things like that. A number of these strategies are also applicable to whatever kind of business you run as well, even if it's just a service-led business and not necessarily a digital product-led organization, right? So let's dive into it, right? So this is speaking to the way products are launched and how they are performing. So this is data that is available from, G2. G2 is one of those app marketplaces where products are launched every day, basically. There are hundreds and hundreds of products that are launched every day. Founders are, putting in the efforts, working with their development teams to, take their products to market. And we see that, there are over 30,000 new consumer products that are launched annually, right? So, I mean, if you cut down those numbers to the the monthly, that speaks to like, you have like 2,500 um, products launched every month and, over 500 launched every day on various platforms or on various channels, right? And out of all of those products launched, only 40% of them reach the market, right? And out of the 40% that even reach the market, we have only 60% that generate revenue. So, I mean, let's go into looking at this, from a diagrammic point of view, right? So, 30,000 products launched every year. 40% of that reaching the market, and only 60% of those that reach the market generates any kind of revenue for the founders, the business, and even the investors that probably staked into those business. That shows you that there's a lot of work that needs to be done in terms of like, product marketing, and marketing generally to get the product to the consumers and even get them to pay for it, even after developing. So this is speaking to distribution now. That it takes an average of 28 weeks or 7 months for any new product to reach just 75% of its highest distribution. And when we talk about distribution, I'm talking about getting the product from where you develop it to the customers or the consumers that are actually going to use it. So you speak of marketing, you speak of sales, depending on your business model. This is how long it typically takes for you to see any kind of results from building your product and getting it to market, right? And then talking about the cost of actually launching a product, you probably typically spend from 10,000 to over 10 million, depending on your budget, your pocket, and what kind of allocation you have for marketing. I've seen some very interesting takes on some founders are trying to be smart with how they are communicating, and they'll say we acquired this amount of users without doing any kind of marketing, now which is a very big lie, right? I would like to go into a boxing ring with anybody that makes that kind of statement. Marketing is beyond just advertising, spending money on maybe Meta, Facebook, or paying an influencer to advertise your product for you. That's advertising, that's performance marketing. But any kind of communications you're sending out to talk about your product or your business is actually still doing marketing. And any kind of cost that are incurred in that, paying salaries, just operational cost for tools, that's also marketing expenses. So it is very wrong, placement to say you did this and that without marketing. It just does not make sense. It's not logical, right? So there is also something that I always like to disprove, where um, people believe that maybe if you build your product, if you build a very good product, right, customers will come and use your product, right? But that was probably true when the cost to build a product was significantly high. So you do not have a lot of challenges in the market. You probably have monopoly for a very long time. Maybe only one type of CRM, only one type of marketing automation tool, only one type of ad platform, that was basically boiling the market. Social media platforms were not very much at the time when Facebook was, leading the market. Now we have maybe 6 or 7 of them that are competing for market share. So yeah, it was very costly to build products in the past. So if you actually build a very good product, you get like the most of the customers. It's not the same like today, right? We've seen the numbers that over 500 products are launched every day, right? And a lot more are being built that have not even launched. So the cost to build products is actually significantly cheaper now. But what is now very difficult is how to actually take that product to market. Human beings, we get used to things and then they don't work anymore. Um, I believe that like display ads or in-app ads do not necessarily work these days because, I'm probably playing, let's say, Candy Crush because I just want to be entertained. And then for me to get maybe bonus points or to get like more lives, they show me 30 second or 1 minute ad. I'm not going to do anything on that ad. I just want to go back to play my game, right? So because I recognize that this is advertising that the publisher is trying to do, it doesn't work on me anymore. I've gotten used to it. I can spot advertising anywhere. I mean, and a lot of people are getting more averse to responding to advertising, right? And that's just advertising. So, and then there are different forms of way people do marketing. So, I mean, once somebody gets a hang of what you're doing, then it's no longer effective. And that's why we always have to change our strategies and our tactics, from different variety formats of content and marketing generally. Right? So if you build your product or you create your very good service, if you don't go and take it to the customers, nobody's going to use it, right? Because it doesn't make sense to build a product on an island in the middle of nowhere. You have no bridges, you have no boats, you have no logistics, basically no transportation network to get people in and out of the island or in and out of your product, basically. So it's not a very wise strategy anymore. So, like I said, if founders are launching products every day, everywhere on different platforms like product hunts. You see publications on like maybe Tech About, TechCrunch. There are different app marketplaces. People are bidding crazy on search and on the app stores and all of that. They're basically products everywhere. Everyone is trying to get a share of the market for what product or service they are offering, right? So that's what founders are doing. And like I mentioned, there is, we cannot exhaust the list of customer acquisition channels. I think Leia touched on a bit of that. And this is a illustration that kind of shows you that, it's very difficult for you to maybe prioritize your channels because you cannot, these are going to require significant time, money, effort, and resources if you want to do them well. So, you have paid social like Facebook ads, TikTok ads, you have social media on its own with organic content from Snapchat to TikTok to LinkedIn to Twitter to Facebook to IG. You have app stores, you have online communities like Slack and Discord and Nairaland, like Leia also mentioned at some point. You have online forums like that, Quora, Reddit, and the rest. PR platforms, webinars, podcasts, like a webinar that we're doing right now. Physical events, search engines. There's so many acquisition channels. One acquisition channel that is also equally important. If you have a digital product, your product is also an acquisition channel, right? Especially if you have a kind of product-led motion where people can discover your app or your web app or your mobile app or your products, and they can sign in and start using it without even interacting with anybody. No sales team initially or customer service needs to onboard them to use your platform. That's another acquisition channel that's also very viable. So the problem now is, how do you select the right channels for customer acquisition, right? And the best channels, it actually depends, right? There's no magic formula or silver bullets you're going to use every time. So whatever kind of market you're targeting and whatever kind of product you develop for that market, right? And the business model which you're running, these two things on is going to heavily influence what kind of customer acquisition channels would make sense for your own specific kind of business, right? So those are things you need to consider. That means you always have to consider these factors, and do your research and analysis and develop your strategy around them every single time you are maybe pivoting or creating a new line of products or launching a new feature in your product altogether, right? So customer acquisition channels generally are distribution channels. And if you think about distribution is just like a networking thing. It's how you move things from point A to point B. The network that is involved in that process basically. So customer channels are really like the endpoints, right, for your distribution. And something that works for acquisition, that works for content, that works for marketing, that works for anything you are developing that involves influencing customer behavior, is to create the kind of products and services, right, that customers need to solve their problems, right, and then you distribute it in the channels that your customers are. So this means that you don't create products or services that nobody needs, and people have to need it so much that it's a pain point. Like it's, people buy Panadol more than they buy vitamins, right? People like to do things when it's a pain that they need to get rid of, as opposed to something that they will just use for preventive measures or to stay healthy. People go to gym when they want to lose weight, not when they feel like they're fine. Maybe they don't necessarily have too much fat that they want to lose or anything like that. I mean, it's when you get to that problem that you now start looking for, okay, I need to eat healthy, I need to change my lifestyle and stuff like that. So if you think about it like that, that will influence the kind of products or services that you create. And then when it comes to distribution, you basically want to take it to where the people that need it are. So that will influence the kind of channels you use, right? So if you're doing B2C, there's probably a lot of channels you can use, like social media. You can use paid search. You can also use SEO, which is the organic type of paid search as well. A bunch of channels, you might create a community and then you service them with content and events and materials that be resourceful and useful to them. If you're doing B2B, for instance, I mean, there are some channels that might not necessarily make sense for the kind of customers you're targeting, right? Because they are not necessarily, the decision makers are not necessarily on those channels. So this is how you think about, your acquisition channels. There's also a formula around which I used to develop my channels most of the time, which is really data driven, right? So if you build out a channel matrix, which has a couple of components, right? So targeting is one factor you consider, that, okay, this channel I want to use, what's the ability of that channel to target different kinds of audiences that I want to reach. Now, this means, we're talking about digital channels right now, and then look at the cost, right? So what is the cost that it will cost you to actually acquire users in that channel, right? You also look at the input time, right? The time that it will take you to, start seeing some kind of results, which you can use to influence your next steps on that channel. And then the output time is, time that it takes you to get data around your experiments that you're running with this channel, right? And then control and scale. How much control do you have over turning the channel on and off? And then what kind of scale can you achieve, with that channel? What's the potential market size or customer size that you can reach on your channel? And I'll show you what this means in practice, right? So I built one channel matrix here for a business. And this is how we're looking at it, right? So in a perfect world, the best channel you want to use needs to have, low cost, very high targeting, high control, so you can switch it on and off at will. The input time that will take you to start doing anything on that channel should be low. The output time should also be low, right? You want to get results fast so that you can iterate, you can experiment, you can, A/B test, you can do whatever. And the scale that you reach more customers on that channel before it gets like saturated should also be high. So that's the perfect world. So you're trying to mirror the perfect world in other channels that you're going to be considering. So if you look at paid channels, for instance, like paid social, right? Talk about Facebook ads, Meta ads, basically Instagram ads, TikTok, Snapchat, LinkedIn, or whatever channel that have an advertising capability for publishers or advertisers. The cost is low because you can actually like there's a minimum spend you can you can expense on that channel before you start getting results. There's also targeting that you can control. You can decide that you want to reach people based on their demographics, their interests, and their behaviors. You can also control, okay, I don't want to run ads over the weekend. I want to pause my campaigns. Or I find out that there's a peak season where people purchase behavior is very high during like festivities. So I want to double down on my budget, on my targeting, and on my bid during these periods. The time it also take me to start, like I can run an ad right now in the next 5 minutes, and I start to get results that I can use to influence my experiment. So both input and output time are very low, and the scale is high. If I decide to spend more, change my targeting, change my bid, change my ad creatives and my content as well, I can reach new audiences over time, and I will get like I can do this for a very long time. So the scale is very high. So looking at that also, we can do that for like inbound, which is like content, organic content. Same for SEO. So if you look at this, you have like a mix of some of the channels are better in terms of like cost. Some channels are better for targeting. Some channels give me more control. So if you look at like channels like influencers and external forums that you don't necessarily own, if you work with an influencer, for instance, the cost is not low, but it depends on the kind of influencer you're working with, anyways. The audience and the engagement and the level they've gotten to in their own like brand. So the cost is not necessarily low, but let's say medium cost. Targeting is Targeting might be high if you're using the right influencers that have like a community relevant to the product or service you offer, right? If you also look at it in terms of the control, you don't necessarily have a lot of control over what happens when you work with like influencers. So let's say medium, and that medium is speaking to you're using the right person that actually has the kind of community or following that's relevant to your business, right? And then if you look at them in terms of like input time, how fast can you get results from them? It's not on the low side. It's medium to high. And then how fast can they launch their campaigns? How fast can you start looking at the same results? It's also medium. But the scale is low because if you expand the engagement you have with an influencer or the campaign you're running with them, it has like a half life, kind of a time that it's no longer going to be effective as much. You might just during a period or a season when maybe like the person is probably hot, or it's their time that they're trendy. You might get results from there, but over time, you start to see diminishing returns. So this is how you look at prioritizing your customer acquisition channel. So you're not just jumping on every trend now. Okay, people are doing TikTok reels TikTok content right now. Let's go to TikTok. People are using Instagram reels right now. Let's jump on Instagram. Let's jump on there's which we need to start writing newsletters. Oh, let's start up a community. Let's do blog. Let's SEO just at the whim of thoughts. That's a very wrong way to go about it. A better way is to use data, and something you can defend in the way you are calculating it. And a lot of these variables and factors might change depending on the channel, which will bring me to how you do prioritization properly. So if you look at your channel matrix and you've highlighted that, okay, this and these are the channels we're going to work with, there are going to be maybe two or three or four or five channels that you decide that you want to be great at. So the way I've looked at it now, we've talked about paid channels being very good. Paid social ads, for instance. Also paid search will also have like similar um, you know ratings, that you might also decide that, okay, we're going to do paid search, we're going to do paid social. If you look at SEO, it also gives you like high skill, high output time. It just might take a bit of setup to get inputs and get started. Basically, start working on SEO. It takes a bit of time before you also see results. It takes a bit of time, right? But the targeting is also like medium to high. and control is a bit low because SEO is a long-term game, so you cannot necessarily tweak things anyhow, right? But if you do paid search, a lot of this stuff becomes, what we look at in paid social. So you might decide that you want to prioritize paid social, paid search, and SEO, and those are the things you want to be great at. Your 8/10 efforts. So 80% of what you guys will be doing in your marketing team is to prioritize, SEO, paid search, and paid social, and that's where you want to spend most of your resources and your time and your expertise, right? Things you might want to be good at, right? Are things that you've probably tested and you see that they also work. We don't maybe have sufficient resources to prioritize the 8/10 and the 7/10 at the same time. So we just distribute our resources. So we do more of what we want to be great at, that we're going to see results, over time, long-term benefits, and then we do a bit of the ones that we want to be good at. Then you have some things that you want to test, like experiments, like channels you've not tested at all. You might not have done PR before. You might not have done webinars or podcasts, but you might plan maybe in the next 3 months or 6 months, we'll run one webinar, we'll do one podcast, we'll go for one physical event, and then we'll test and see the outcome. So if the outcome is not great, we'll probably kill that initiative or that channel, right? And that channel will now go to our things we don't want to spend time on because we find out that they don't work. So we don't care about them anymore. So this is how you basically work with the channel matrix. Something I also spoke about is, jumping on every trend right now, saying, okay, let's do Instagram Reels, let's do Threads. Facebook launched Threads, I think last year or thereabouts. When there was this, Elon Musk was trying to buy Twitter from, and take over the platform. So there were maybe some concerns that Twitter is not going to be what people were used to anymore. So, Facebook capitalized on the opportunity to launch Threads. But today, Threads is not really doing anything. Nobody is leaving Twitter to Threads, right? So if you push your marketing team, for instance, that, okay, I want to see content for Threads for the next 6 months, and they abandoned all the other channels like SEO and paid search that they were supposed to be focusing on, I mean, you just wasted everybody's time and everybody's resources and took them back another 6 months to do the right things, right? So it's important for you to understand that every channel that you do not necessarily own yourself, you are subject to the whims or the experiments that the owners of those channels are running. I mean, LinkedIn currently is running an experiment with video content. So if you're using video content right now, you might see a lot of results from it on LinkedIn because they are trying to see they want adoption. When they launch something like that, they want people to use it. So if you use it, they will kind of reward you by promoting your content more. Same thing happened when Instagram launched Reels, Instagram Reels, and when they launched Stories as well. So if you were doing stories at the time, you'll get a lot of impressions and visibility, right? You think you've hacked, this tactic at the time, but over time you start to see diminishing returns again. So if you're just going to wait for every platform to run an experiment and then that's when you jump on it, but you don't necessarily have your own defined marketing strategy, it's not very wise. So you need to prioritize the channels that you own, like cut off the middleman as much as possible. So when I'm talking about this, I mean channels that you own, for instance, like properties like your own web app, your own product, your own email list. So you might want to prioritize like email newsletters. If you're able to develop a community on via email or Slack or WhatsApp or Telegram, I mean, you kind of have a lot of control over them because you have their contact information. If anything happens to WhatsApp, you can move your contacts to Telegram. If anything happens to your publishing platform, for instance, maybe you're using Medium, you can move your Medium subscribers to Substack. If something's wrong with Substack, you can move them to Beehive, or you can just send your own emails yourself, right? From your own like domain and setup. So you get my points now. Nothing is going to happen to your email list or your contact information of your customers that you own. But anything can happen to your LinkedIn account. Anything can happen to your Instagram page or your Facebook account. Somebody might hack your profile or something like that, and you lose all your customers, right? So build channels that you can control in the long term. And those are the channels that you want to put on your 8/10 and your 7/10 prioritization scale, right? And then one thing you should also do is to try to get some information or data about where your customers are coming from what, there are so many channels. So it's very simple to set this up. If you have a product or maybe even a website or something, where did you guys learn about us? For instance, it's we assume that a lot of people that attended this webinar, for instance, came in, via LinkedIn. It's also possible that you came in from other channels. So there's a simple, where did you guys find out about this webinar, for instance? And you can add this to your onboarding, and it gives you insight into what channels are working and what channels are not, right? And you can also do some experiments. Okay, for instance, we've been spending so much money on paid ads. How about we don't do paid ads this month and let's see what happens, right? Is it going to have any effect on our current, acquisition numbers or not? And this is how you really prioritize and you select the right channels that might work for your products, right? And that will be it for me. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to take them or contributions. Over to you now, Dika. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much, James. That was very great. That was also very insightful. Thank you. We had, a lot to learn from the data points that were presented. We have a few questions on the comment section, so I would like the floor is open. We can see how we answer these questions and give our listeners more insights and educate them. So, firstly, um, the first question we have here is: big brands sometimes spend more than they make to acquire new customers. Yeah, it's not a secret. Acquisition is, when big brands launch or probably after investments, they go head on into acquisition. So how do they, in this sense, is it good for them to, go ahead and spend this much? Also, for small brands, should they implement such in their acquisition strategies? So Leye, over to you. You can help us answer this.
Thanks, Nick. I'm trying to understand what the question is here. That big brands spend a lot of money when they acquire. So what's the question?
Yeah, so so is it advisable for them to go ahead and do that? Also, can small brands model this this approach?
I mean, there's a saying, it ain't tricking if you got it, but that's probably not the answer that that person is looking for. I mean, what is important is understanding, um, you know, what acquisition cost works for you, and that's where customer lifetime value comes in. And this is also where you think about what will you gain when you retain your customer. So for most digital products, you probably have a monthly or an annual subscription. So, and you need to sort of, like, if you're a totally new product that you don't have any history, you need to sort of project how long would a typical customer stay with me, and how much will I make throughout the lifetime of that customer. So if I have an app, I'd used the Flow app before, the paid version. How long would someone use that app for and pay for, right? So let's assume it's 3 years, and payment for that app for 3 years is probably $300. So it means that I want an acquisition cost that is less than $300 so that I can break even and make money. Okay. All right. So if I'm spending more than $300, then I'm losing. So, it could be cars I'm selling, for example, and my acquisition cost is $10,000. But it means that, maybe customer lifetime value, because maybe they'll also come for servicing, change of parts, is maybe $100,000. So it's really not about the amount, but it's about return on ad spend. It's about breaking even. It's about understanding, what the value of the customer is to you over the lifetime of that customer. But also, you need to ensure that when you acquire that customer, you are offering value to retain that customer, maximize that customer, and also upsell, where need be if you have complementary products. So I think that should answer that question. And when you say should small businesses also adopt the same approach, yes, they should as adopt the same approach as what I just explained in terms of understanding how much is each customer worth to you over the lifetime of that customer. And then based on that, you can try and figure out how much you should spend on customer acquisition. You might have a lot of channels or a lot of opportunities available to you to acquire that customer, but it doesn't mean that you have to take them. You need to use channels or platforms or tactics that would ensure that your customer acquisition cost falls below you know below your CLV, or what will make it profitable for you. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you very much. Also, we have a second question. James will be passing this over to you. It says, when the product is a very high-end one, say for instance, it's a luxury product, maybe leather, expensive designer clothes, or even materials, let's say building materials or the likes, when it's a high-end product, um, for instance, costing millions of naira, and potential customers are skeptical. So we know it's easy when you're dealing with a digital product that is practically cheap or that have freemium. Say for instance, now if I were using Canva, I can get a test run with the free version, and the paid version is just 2,000 naira, which is actually very affordable for a lot of people. But when you're trying to convert customers that will have to shell a lot of money, and they don't know your brand yet, how do you go about that? Like, what would your approach be like?
This is, in a way, going to be related to the conversation around how much you spend to acquire a customer and what you get from converting that customer in terms of like ROI or return on ad spend. So the thing is, it's just like a human thing for you to be more skeptical about just closing your eyes to pay for something that costs you a lot of money or a significant amount of spend, especially when it's like the first touch point. So there is a kind of spectrum you look at for things around cost and spend and acquisition. So if your product is high end and it costs a lot, then it's probably going to make sense that the channels you use to acquire customer are also going to be a bit high end in terms of like they're going to be like high cost. And if your product is like low touch, something that people can just swipe $1, $2, $3 or $5. If you run advertising, some people might buy it at the first touch point that they see. They might be able to shop online, swipe their card for something that they've not even seen anybody or spoken to anybody for. But when you're trying to sell, for instance, you're trying to sell software that costs $20,000 maybe per month or something like that, or like you mentioned, millions of naira in spend. Doesn't make sense for me to carry my card and swipe to buy something online. The only time it makes sense for me to do something like that is I probably already know what I'm buying, who I'm buying from. I've already like developed some kind of trust with the vendor or with the product, and this happens from multiple touch points, multiple interactions. Um, I probably visited if it's a luxury store, for instance, I visited the store. I know that this store is actually where it says on the map. I know that this product costs this amount. I've tested that it's quality products, right? Those are all of the things that fuel my perception of okay, now I feel comfortable enough to make this transaction, and then I can make the transaction with my card or via my bank. But that's at the last point. That's when it comes to okay, you've already convinced me that this is legit, I'm going to pay now. As opposed to okay, the first time I see an ad on maybe Facebook, you're asking me to spend $10,000. That's not going to happen. And this is how to think about it. So you probably want to invest more in different channels that make the customer more comfortable spending that amount of money. So you see why there is like channels like enterprise sales, for instance, where people leverage their relationships, they make one-on-one calls, they go to events to go and speak to companies that, oh, you guys need to purchase this product, blah, blah, blah. That's they are making, and all of this costs money. It costs time. Sales cycle of maybe 3 months, just because you're trying to gain trust for somebody to put down a lot of money. But if what I'm selling is just $5, I'm not going to put in all that effort. What I'm going to be doing is mass marketing, that everybody that hears about it can buy that product, right? So for me, the kind of marketing I would do is going to be mass, right? So even if everybody is buying, a ticket of maybe just $5, if I get 1,000 customers, right, that's 5,000. So I can actually spend 2,000 on maybe marketing, and then I have a payback of like 2 to 1 or 3 to 1, right? But for an item that costs a lot more than that, I'll use more expensive channels like community events, PR partnerships, and places that even by the nature of those channels, they are more trustworthy, and it helps to build trust basically with the customer. So, they'll probably be able to pay at the last touch points, not at the first interaction. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, yes. Also, they can also take advantage of the table that you provided them to see where they need to push their customer acquisition strategies into. That was great. So that's brings us to the end of the Q&A session. I know there was one more question also, but that's pretty much the same answer when it comes to moving or trying to sell things that are high end. So we'll be moving over to this now. Leye, I don't know if you want to speak a bit on this, give us some insights on DMI and what we can do for people that are in the marketing space and need to upskill and gain that certification. So over to you, Leah.
Thanks, Dika. Obviously, we can't spend so much time on this webinar. It's just to, give us small bites of knowledge or insights on, how to approach customer acquisition, even crafting value proposition and things like that. But if you really want to get your um, marketing or digital skills from beginner to intermediate level, and you also want to have the bragging rights to prove that what you're saying, and you know how to do what you say you know how to do. The Digital Marketing Institute of Ireland is the number one platform, or the number one educational organization that provides digital marketing training and certification globally. And Intense Digital is, one of the partners for DMI in Nigeria, and you can basically do your course through us at a highly discounted rate. So if you went directly to DMI, you'd be paying an equivalent of 2.1 million naira to do um, your professional diploma in digital marketing. But if you came through us, you'll be paying 450,000, which includes support from our trainers, internal trainers, to help you understand the courseware and also help you pass the exam. So this is a limited time opportunity for you. So if you feel like this is for you, you can click the link on the slide, or Tika, you can drop the link in the comments so that people can basically register, and then we'll reach out to you. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me just quickly drop the link in the comment section. Yeah. Okay. So that's we've had a very, very great period. We've had a great time. We are right on time actually. So we thank you, James, for joining us. We thank you, Leye, for joining us. This was very insightful. So for you all who have been with us throughout this whole um, event today, we say thanks. And also you can reach out to us if you need information, and if you want to know more on how to supercharge your business, on how to get your ideal customers and improve your sales this year. Our email is on the screen on display, as well as our social media handle. And then we would love to keep being in touch with you, so we would send you a recording of this webinar as soon as it's ready, as well as a variation of the deck, which will contain all relevant information for you, so that you can keep that in mind, and also implement some of the strategies that we have given you today. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you, James. Thank you, Leye. I think we can just say a final note, and then that'll be all.
Yeah, thanks, Teka. And I feel like you said it all. We would be, having these webinars more often, probably once a month, and we'll probably be reaching out to you to find out what you want to learn next, and that'll basically form what our next webinar topic will be about. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and see you next time.
Okay, bye, guys.